Hello, in this tutorial we're going to show you how VCarve Pro or Aspire can be used to design and route a decorative door panel such as the one we have here in the three-dimensional view. We're going to show you how to import a design that's been drawn using another package, and then how to use the drawing and editing tools inside either VCarve Pro or Aspire to make changes and set the size of the panel. Once we've set the design up, we're then going to swap to the three-dimensional view and show you how to calculate the different toolpaths. We'll look at adding decorative V-carving toolpaths and then move on to how to add an edge molding using an OG cutter, and finally how to cut the shape out using the various profile cutting options such as lead in, lead out, ramping and tabs, etc. Okay, let's start by closing this file. So File, Close. We're going to open an EPS file, so File, Open. Here we've got an EPS file that's been drawn using a graphics package. This could have been drawn using CorelDRAW, it could have been a piece of vector clip art, it could have been drawn using Rhino or AutoCAD, etc. After opening the EPS file, you'll see that the software has automatically picked up the minimum and maximum dimensions for this drawing. We're going to work on a piece of material that's actually a couple of inches bigger, so we'll make it 22 inches wide and 28 inches high. Okay, so the white area represents our 22 by 28 piece of material. We're going to tell the software to center the design inside our piece of material. We're going to work with a piece of 1 inch thick material with Z0 on the surface of the material. You'll see that this design was actually drawn with an offset of 1 inch by 1 inch. I'm just going to tell the software we don't want to use that offset. So now if we look in the two-dimensional view, you'll see the very light grey crosshairs, the bottom left-hand corner, indicate that this is X0, Y0. Okay, so click OK. The drawing tab is open on the left-hand side of the screen. We've got the design that we've just imported. Well, instead of importing, we've opened it directly. And you'll see that the design isn't quite complete. If we zoom in, if I say use the zoom tool, so zoom to this area here, you'll see that in the top left-hand corner we've got part of the design, but we haven't got this. We really need this design to be repeated in the top right-hand corner and also in the bottom left and the bottom right-hand corner. And we're going to use the copy paste tools to do that. So I'm going to, at the moment I'm in zoom mode, so if I click the right-hand mouse button once, you'll see that it cancels the zoom mode and comes back to selection mode. Alternatively, we could have pressed the escape key on the keyboard. Now if I click with the left-hand mouse button, click and drag to enclose the design in the top left-hand corner here, you'll see that we get the dotted lines indicating that the vectors have been selected. And we can use the copy and paste tool, so we can say right-hand mouse button, edit, copy and paste. Alternatively, we can use the options here. We can use the options to mirror, so we can say mirror, create a mirrored copy, and we can say mirror to the right. Okay, so that gives me the new design. But that's selected. Close the form, use the arrow keys to move just click again to move the design to the right hand side. There is an alternative way to do this. If I just say delete, if I now click and drag again to make the selection, using the keyboard shortcuts we can say Control, Shift and H for horizontal, and that's automatically created a copy for me around the center of my 22 inch wide piece of material. So it's automatically copied and pasted the design onto the right hand side for me. So that was Control plus Shift plus the H key. With this vector selected, we can also make a copy for the bottom half of the design, so the bottom right hand and bottom left hand corner. To do that, I'm just going to add to the selection, so hold the Shift key down, click and select the design in the top left hand corner again. So we've got both corners selected. Now all we do is we say mirror, and we can say mirror to the bottom, Now we made a mistake, so I'm just going to say mirror to top again, put that back. We really need to be creating a copy of the selection, so mirror to the bottom. So there's our selection. Close the form, click a second time to go to transform mode, and use the arrow keys just to move the design to the bottom of our panel. Okay, so we've added decoration now to each of the different corners. If we wish to change the size of something in the design, let's say we wish to change the size of the flower here, we can click and drag to enclose the selection. If we click a second time, you'll see that we get the white transformation handles. I can click and drag to change the size of the flower. If we hold the shift key down when we click and drag, so shift key, you'll see that it's been centered around the middle of the selection, so we can make a very small flower. We click and drag again, second click, we get the transformation handles. We can click and drag to stretch the design or make it facing the other direction. If we click it to face in the opposite direction, we're off the center of the panel, so I can use the alignment tool, align in the center, click and drag to put it back into the middle of the design. And we can say, okay, we want that to be slightly larger, so click and drag holding the shift key, like so. Just going to nudge that slightly to the right and slightly down to finish the design. So we've changed the size of the centerpiece of our decoration. We've used the mirroring tools, and we've clicked and dragged to mirror it interactively with the cursor. So lots of different ways for scaling or transforming the design. When we're happy with the size of this, let's say for example we wanted to change the overall size of the decorative area to be an exact dimension or an exact size. So we could say, okay, really that region there needs to be exactly 13 inches high. You'll see it's scaled the X and the Y proportionately. If we uncheck the link, we could say we want it to be exactly 13 inches and we want it to be, let's say, 11 inches, and apply. And so we've now got the design area to be 13 inches by 11 inches long in the X-axis. Click OK. I'm just going to zoom out by rolling the middle mouse button. An alternative way to zoom to fit is by pressing the letter F on the keyboard. That will zoom the two-dimensional view to fit into the screen area. Now if we look at the outer profiles here, if I click to select and use the node editing tool, if we zoom in, so I'm using the roller mouse button to zoom in, you'll see that it's not very neat and tidy. It's not symmetrical. There's a different number of nodes on the left hand side to the right hand side. We've got the same with the outer profile as well. It's different here to this area here. It hasn't been drawn very accurately. And what you'll find is when you toolpath this, if you were profile machining around the outer edge, the machine might not run very smoothly. So we can fix that using the arc fitting. So fit curves to the selected vectors. Let's say we want the design to be circular arcs instead of lines and Bezier curves. Fit it to within a tolerance of say 0.005 of an inch. Replace the original vectors and fit the curve. Just close. Use the node editing tool again. You'll see now that we've got lots of lines and arcs, much neater. If we do the same with the inner profile, so convert to arcs, fit curves, close. If we now use N to node edit, you'll see that we've got lines and arcs, and that would machine much neater. So F to zoom to fit. To deselect, we either press the escape key or click the right hand mouse button twice. Okay. Let's check the size of this outermost rectangle. This is going to actually be the finished size for our door panel. We're going to machine around this rectangle using an end mill. So this is the size that we wish the panel to be when we finish machining. With the rectangle selected, we can click on the Draw Rectangle tool, and you'll see the software is automatically. We can use the Scale tool. We can say that. Click on we can scale this to be any size that we want, but I'm really going to leave it as it is, so 20 inches by 26 inches high, but we could change that to be any size we wanted. Okay, once we're ready with the design. So we finished copy and pasting, setting the size and setting up the panel. We then swap from the drawing tab on the left hand side of the screen to the toolpath tab on the right hand side of the screen. Over here, the first thing we do is check the material setup. So we're using 1-inch thick material, Z0 on the surface, specify the clearance gap height and the height to retract after machining. Click OK. Let's start by calculating some V-carving toolpaths, and to do that I'm simply going to select all of the panel in the middle. So select all of the decoration. The second row of icons is create V-carve or engraving toolpath. So here we're going to select the cutter, come across, open the tool database. The tool database contains the different cutters that we typically be using on our CNC machine, and we can add our own cutters to this. We can import cutters, so we can create a new one. We can make copies. We could import a group of cutters from a different tool database. We could import or export single cutters. Here we're going to use a V-bit. So in this case, let's use our 1/2 inch diameter. So 1/2 inch diameter, 90 degree included angle cutter. Pass depth 1/4 inch. We've got some roughing step over and finishing step overs. And at the bottom we have the speeds and feeds for this cutter. So the RPM, the cutting feed rate, and the plunge feed rate. If you've got a machine with an automatic tool changer, you'd also specify what tool number this cutter was in the carousel. Okay, so we'll select that cutter and calculate. So the software has automatically calculated the toolpath for us and opened the 3-dimensional view. In the 3-dimensional view, we can click with the left mouse button to twiddle. We can zoom in or out with the right hand mouse button by pushing or pulling. The toolpath's been calculated and the preview toolpath form has been opened. We can preview this toolpath. So preview. This shows us what the cutter is going to produce when cutting this decoration for us. We can fill this with a different color, so we'll preview this with a sort of a light green. Zoom in and you'll see that would be the result of V-carving that decoration. If we go back to the drawing tab on the left, what I'm going to do here is just tile the view. So I'm going to say split the views or tile the views vertically. So on the left hand side we've got the 2-dimensional view. On the right hand side we've got the 3-dimensional view with the toolpath preview. Now swap to the toolpath tab on the right. So now we can, in the 2-dimensional view, we can select objects and we can calculate toolpaths on the right. Now I'm going to calculate another toolpath to add this groove decoration. Now to do that I'm going to use exactly the same cutter. So with this V-carving toolpath selected, I'm going to use the option to copy the toolpath. So this gives me a copy, edit this toolpath. You'll notice that it's automatically selecting the vectors, but we're just going to click in the background to deselect. Click the first outer profile, holding the shift key, the second one. So let's give this a different name. So we'll call this Carve Border. So we're going to use exactly the same V-bit, but instead of doing the flower and the corner decoration, we're just going to go around this outer edge. Now we could have done it all in one go, but you'll see in a moment why I haven't done that. If we say calculate and preview the results, we V-carved this border area to a complete V groove. So the tool is going to a complete V groove, and that may be what we want, but in this case I'm going to change that. I'm going to say, instead of going as deep as it is, let's limit this to a depth of say 0.1 to 1/8 of an inch deep. Okay, so and recalculate the toolpath. If we reset the preview, now preview that toolpath, you'll see now that instead of going to a V, we force the toolpath to only be 1/8 of an inch deep. Let's make it a little bit deeper, so let's make it 0.2 deep and calculate. Reset the preview again. So we've got a groove there with sharp external corners. that's 0.2 of an inch deep. And we can change the color of that toolpath, so we'll make that one sort of dark blue. We've got our original toolpath for the decoration. Okay, right, so next thing to do is calculate the toolpath to actually profile around the outer edge or outer rectangle for the panel to cut the shape out. If we say close, so again, two-dimensional view, click with the left mouse button to select the rectangle. To do this, we're going to say it's a 2D toolpath, so create a profiling toolpath, and we want to machine on the outside of this selected line. We're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill, so end mills. So use end mill, 1/4 inch end mill, and let's say calculate. So the software has automatically calculated multiple passes for us there. So we've got lots of passes stepping down. Now that would probably take too long to cut. So if I double click to edit this toolpath, edit the cutting properties. So instead of passing down at an 1/8 of an inch increment, I'm going to tell the software we can go down in 0.3 of an inch increments. So recalculate. We've got fewer passes now, so we cut the panel out much quicker. But there would be a problem, because once we've cut this panel out, it would break free. So if we go back to the edit the profiling toolpath, we'd almost certainly want to use some sort of tabs, or maybe if we've got a vacuum on the table, then the vacuum would hold the panel in place. But in this case, we're going to add some tabs. So let's make the tabs 3/4 of an inch long, and we'll make them 0.25 of an inch thick. We have to edit where we want the tabs to go, so I'm just going to click exactly where we want them to go, so at the top, at the bottom, so just clicking with the left mouse button on the left and on the right. Click OK. Now if we say recalculate this toolpath, you'll see here in the three-dimensional view we've got these little triangles. This is where the tool is going to lift up, retract and leave some material in. So if we preview this toolpath, so preview, we've cut all the way through the material, but we've left these little tabs in place. Now this toolpath is going to plunge onto the edge of the rectangle down this vertical edge, so we might leave a witness mark. Ideally we want the cutter to start away from the panel, to lead in, profile around and then lead off at the end. So to do that, we say profile machine, we say okay, let's add leads. So add leads, let's make them circular leads, let's make them 1.5 inch radius, 1/2 inch long. Let's make it a little bit bigger, let's make it 1 inch long, and we also want it to lead out as well. And just to make sure we don't get a witness mark, we want the cutter to pass itself, so to machine all the way around the shape, come back to the start, go pass by 0.1 of an inch to make sure we clean up the shape. Now if we look at the two-dimensional view, if I zoom in, this little green node is the start point. This is where the cutter is going to start to lead in and lead out. If we press the letter N for node editing, we can change that position to be anywhere that we want. For example, I could place the cursor over this bottom left hand corner, click the right hand mouse button and say make this the start point. So this changes to green. What that's done is it's changed the position for my tabs. So I'm going to go back to tabs, edit the tabs, just drag these into the positions that we really want them to be, so like so. So again, we're going to start on this bottom corner here. So now if we say calculate, in the three-dimensional view, you'll see that the tool is coming in, it's arcing in, going around the panel, and then arcing off at the end. So if we say preview, let's just reset the panel for a moment. Look at the profile toolpath, preview. This is the lead in and the lead out, and it's profiling around the shape. But don't forget that we're leaving the little tabs in place. Now, when the cutter's starting the lead move, it's actually plunging vertically down the z-axis. So we can also modify that. We could tell the software to use, so we're going to use tabs, leads. We can also force it to ramp. So instead of plunging vertically, we can say make zigzag moves, but do the ramping over only on the lead portion. So where we've got the arc coming in, only make the plunge movies on the lead. So specify the zigzag ramp moves only on the lead portion of the toolpath. So now if we say calculate, let's zoom in and take a look at that toolpath. Just reset the preview for a moment. If we say view, undraw the color shaded view, now if we zoom in, you'll see just the wireframe toolpath information. You can see the toolpath is going to come across to the start point. It's going to ramp in, zigzag down, but only over the portion of this arc in. So it's going to zigzag down to the first level, 0.25 deep, profile machine around. Then it's going to zigzag down ½ inch deep, profile round again. So we're forcing the plunge moves to ramp instead of plunging vertically. Let's switch the color shaded view back on and the color shaded background back on. So now if we say preview this toolpath, okay, something else to notice is if we say profile machine, we can show the preview in the 2D view to be on or off. If we zoom in the two-dimensional view, so profile on or off, you can see here that we've got a sharp corner. If we edit this toolpath, the corners, if we switch sharp corners off and recalculate, we get a rounded corner. But that means that you might get some burning on the corner here. Double click to edit, say corners, force it to be sharp corners, recalculate, the toolpath goes past the 90-degree corner and then moves off to the left. You can also change the cutting direction, so you might wish to be climb cutting rather than conventional. Recalculate, and the cutter direction has been reversed, so now we're going clockwise around the panel. So if we press 2D view, F to zoom to fit, you'll see in the 3-dimensional view reset, you'll see that there we've got the sharp external corners. F to fit in the 3-dimensional view. So let's preview all of the toolpaths that we've got here. We could say preview all. So the decoration for the middle, the centerpiece of the panel, the groove around the edge, and then cut the panel out. Okay, but we may wish to add a decorative edge to this. So if we've got an ogee cutter or a round over cutter, we could use that to form a nice decorative edge on the panel. So to do that, we're going to say close. With the outer rectangle selected, another profiling toolpath. This time we're going to say profile with the tip of the cutter on the selected vector. Select a cutter. If we come along to the tool database, here we've got some what are called form cutters. We've got an ogee cutter. So this is the cross section for the cutter. So it's 1 1/4 inch diameter, and it can cut a pass depth of 0.2 of an inch. Now you can add your own. Here we've got a round over cutter. You can draw your own cross sections to create your own form cutters. Let's use the one that's in the database. So click OK. Let's say instead of we're not going to go all the way through this time. We'll say we're going to cut 0.5 of an inch deep. Remember, we're cutting with a form cutter on the selected vector. If we say calculate, so now we've got a toolpath. If we preview the edge, if we add some color to this, so we'll use a dark red. You'll see now that the ogee cut has been used to form this very nice chamfered edge around the whole of the panel. Double click to edit this toolpath. We'd probably give this a more meaningful name, so we'll call this edge with an ogee cutter and recalculate. So let's double click to maximize the 3-dimensional view, and just to reset the panel, we've got a different toolpaths here. So we we've got the decorative V-carving, we've got the profile cutout toolpath. Now that may be in the wrong position. We can use the arrow keys. That might be the last toolpath that we wish to run. We've got our decorative OG. So this is going to form the edge, and we profile machine to cut the piece out. We've got little tabs holding the part in place, so tabs on the left, the right, and also on the top and the bottom. And we've got the decorative V-carving. So preview and preview again. And we've been using the option to add specific colors to each of the different toolpaths. So we can select the toolpath, change the color that's displayed in the three-dimensional view. When we're happy with all of the toolpaths, we then come to the toolpath operations menu. We could look at the estimated cutting time. So this will tell us how long it's going to take to machine this panel. And then simply selecting each toolpath in turn, we use the save toolpaths, select the post processor that we have for the machine. So select the post processor from the list, select the toolpaths that we wish to cut. Now we know in this case the decorative V-carving for the flower, the corners and this edge border are using the same cutter. So I can say make those visible, and we can say output all visible toolpaths to one file. So this is going to save the V-carving for the flower and decoration, and also the edge border. Both of those are visible, so we can save them into a single file. So we would say save, give the toolpath a name, and it's ready then to send to the CNC machine. We'd then select a different toolpath. So we'd say select the OG cutter, save this to a file, give it a name, and it's ready to change the cutter on the machine and then run it on the machine. And finally, cut the panel out. So select the 1/4 inch end mill toolpath, save this and run it on the CNC machine. So just to run through what we've done here, if we go back to the drawing tab, open the two-dimensional view, we've imported our basic design. Remember that only the top left hand corner was in the design. We've then used the option to mirror. So option to mirror with the create copy selected. So this gave us the option for the right hand side and the bottom left and bottom right hand corner. We've also looked at the keyboard shortcuts, so selecting the vectors and using the options Control Shift and H to give me a copy on the right hand side. We've also looked at sizing and scaling, so select the vectors. We can scale this to be any size that we want. So we can drag it up or down. We can also change it by flipping from left to right. And we've also looked at tidying up the geometries using the arc fitting. So arc fit, if we say node edit, you'll see that we've created arcs rather than the point to point or the Bezier curves that we had in the original design. Once we were happy with the design, we then swapped to the toolpath tab on the right hand side of the screen. So toolpath tab, we've calculated some V-carving toolpaths. We've added the decorative border with an OG cutter, and then finally we've cut the panel out. So we've cut it out with tabs in positions, so tabs on each side and top and bottom. We've used lead in and lead out, so we've used the toolpath to lead onto this corner. Remember that we changed the start position. If we say enter node edit, we can place the cursor anywhere on the vector, right hand mouse button. We can say insert a point, place the cursor over that point, make this the start point. When it becomes green, that's the point at which the cutter will enter and start cutting. You can say Control Z to get rid of that, to put it back. So we've profiled with tabs, with leads. We've also used ramps, and we've forced the ramp to only be on the lead section or portion of the toolpath. And where we've got square corners, instead of the cutter rolling around the edge, we've forced it to come past the edge and then go off and cut horizontally, so we don't get any burning on the corners. If we look at the 2D profile of this toolpath, you'll see that it's leading in, going around clockwise around the shape, getting back to the start point and then leading off again. We then looked at saving the toolpath, so select the post processor and saving the toolpath to run on the machine. Thank you for watching this demonstration.